You talk to yourself more than you talk to anyone else. All day long, there's a voice in your head that's narrating your life. It's commenting on how you look, how you feel, how you're performing, whether or not you're good enough, smart enough, capable enough. And here's the thing, we don't even realize it's happening. It's just noise in the background, but it's the most powerful influence on your life. Why? Because the voice you hear most is your own. That internal dialogue becomes the foundation for how you see yourself, how you act, and ultimately how you live. Let me tell you something that most people never stop to think about. Your self-talk is shaping your identity. The words you repeat, even subconsciously, become the story you believe. And your brain, it listens. It doesn't argue. It doesn't say, hey, wait a minute, that thought isn't helpful. Nope. It just absorbs. So if every time you mess up, you tell yourself, I'm such an idiot, your brain begins to believe that. It wires that belief in. If you start your day looking in the mirror and thinking, ugh, I look awful goffle, guess what happens? That thought sticks. It becomes a filter for how you experience the rest of your day. That's not just a bad habit, it's a pattern. And that pattern turns into your personality. Here's the truth, we all have a mental playlist running in the background. Some of us have empowering playlists that say, you've got this, you're growing, you're strong. But most people are playing the same tired, self-defeating tracks over and over again. I can't do this. I'm not ready. I always screw things up. No one cares what I have to say. And it's not because you're broken, it's because your brain is for survival, not success. That voice is trying to keep you safe, not help you grow. It's the part of your mind that fears failure, judgment, risk. But when that becomes your default voice, you don't live, you shrink. Now, imagine what would happen if you changed that voice for just 3 days. What if every time you caught yourself thinking something critical or harsh, you paused and said something different, encouraging? True. What if instead of I'm not good enough, you said I'm learning, I'm trying? That's enough. Instead of I always screw up, you said mistakes are part of growth. You wouldn't just feel better, you'd start showing up differently. Because your thoughts create your feelings drive your actions, and your actions shape your reality. Let's talk about science for a second. Your brain is plastic. That means it changes based on what you do and what you repeat. Every thought you think fires a neural pathway. Repeat it enough, and that pathway becomes strong, automatic, second nature. So when you feed your brain negativity, it builds strong highways of self-doubt. But when you feed it confidence, optimism, resilience, you start building new pathways. You're literally rewiring your brain to believe better things about yourself. And here's the kicker, it doesn't take years. You can start changing the narrative in just a few days of intentional focus. That's how powerful your self-talk is. The reason this works is because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. If you constantly tell yourself you're overwhelmed, your brain will react like you are. Your heart rate goes up, your stress increases, and your ability to think clearly drops. But if you say, I can handle this, one step at a time, your brain calms down, your body follows, and your energy shifts. This is why athletes use visualization, why high performers talk to themselves out loud before a big moment. It's not weird, it's science, it's strategy. So if you want to change your life, start with your voice. not the one you use in public, the one no one hears. That's the voice that matters most. That's the one shaping your confidence, your courage, and your capacity to grow. For the next 3 days, speak to yourself like someone worth fighting for, like someone who matters, like someone you're rooting for. Because when you change the way you talk to yourself, you change what you believe about yourself. And when that belief shifts, everything in your life begins to follow. Your brain believes what you tell it. This isn't some feel-good slogan. This is neuroscience. The way you talk to yourself, the thoughts you think, and the stories you repeat day after day are literally shaping the structure and function of your brain. Every time you think a thought, your brain fires a series of neurons. And when you repeat that thought, those neural pathways get stronger. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on repetition. That means whatever you say to yourself the most becomes your reality, whether it's true or not. Now, most of us aren't even aware of the narrative we're feeding our brain. We wake up in the morning and the thoughts start rolling in. I'm so tired. Today's going to be stressful. I have so much to do, I can't handle it. I'm behind again. And you don't stop to question it. You don't stop to interrupt it. You just accept it as fact. But those words, those unchallenged, automatic thoughts, become instructions. Your brain listens. It responds. And it starts acting on that belief. If you tell yourself you're overwhelmed, your brain goes, okay, we're overwhelmed, and it activates your stress response. Your body tightens. Your focus narrows. Your confidence drops. All because of a sentence you said in your own head. Think about this if you walked around all day telling a child you're a failure. You can't do anything right. Nobody likes you. How do you think that child would feel? How would they behave? Eventually, they'd start to believe it. They'd shrink. They'd stop trying. They'd doubt themselves constantly. That sounds like abuse, right? And yet many of us talk to ourselves that way every single day. We say things like, I'm not good enough, I always mess up, I'll never change, and we don't even blink. But the impact is the same. That inner voice shapes your self-image. And your self-image drives your behavior. Here's where the science gets even more powerful. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system, the RAS. It's like a filter that decides what information your brain should focus on. And you program that filter with your thoughts. So if you keep telling yourself, I'm not worthy, your brain will actually start looking for proof to back that up. It will tune into moments that reinforce that story and filter out anything that contradicts it. But if you start saying, I'm capable, I'm learning, I can do this, guess what happens? Your brain starts looking for evidence of that too. It begins to notice your small wins. It spots opportunities. It opens up possibilities you wouldn't have seen otherwise. This is why changing your self-talk is such a powerful tool. Because you're not just thinking positive, you're literally training your brain to work for you instead of against you. And it doesn't have to be some fake pep talk. You don't need to lie to yourself or pretend everything's perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is to choose thoughts that are useful, supportive, and grounded. Instead of I'm not ready, you say, I'm nervous and I can still take the next step. Instead of I always mess this up, you say, I've learned from the past and I'm getting better. It's not about being delusional, it's about being deliberate. And here's something else most people don't realize. Your brain loves habits. It craves repetition. That's why so many of your negative thoughts feel automatic, because they are. They've been rehearsed so many times, they've become your default. But that also means you can train in a new default. You can choose a better script. And yes, at first it will feel awkward. Your brain might resist. But if you stick with it for even a few days, you'll start to feel the shift. You'll start to notice how often that old narrative pops up and how much power you have to rewrite it. The most powerful belief you can hold is this: I can change the way I think. Because once you believe that, everything else opens up. You stop being a prisoner of your past. You stop being defined by your mistakes. You stop waiting for permission. And you start becoming the person you were meant to be. The brain you've got, it's listening. Every word you say to yourself is either programming you to shrink or preparing you to grow. So speak like someone who's building a better future, because your brain will believe it. And your life will start to reflect it. You don't need a full month or a 90-day challenge to start changing your life. Just 3 days. That's it. 3 days of intentional, deliberate effort can interrupt an intra-decade mental pattern you've been stuck in for years. And the reason this works is because most of what holds you back isn't your ability, your talent, or your circumstances. It's your autopilot. It's the default programming in your brain that runs the same limiting thoughts over and over. But the moment you become aware of those thoughts and decide to shift them, even slightly, you begin to break the cycle. Most people underestimate the power of short-term commitment. They think change has to be massive and long-term to count. But in reality, your brain just needs a pattern interrupt, something different, something new, something that disrupts the routine and signals to your mind, we're not doing things the old way anymore. And 3 days is the perfect window. It's short enough to feel doable, but long enough to create momentum. You can handle 3 days. You've pushed through harder things before. You've shown up for people. You've survived chaos. 3 days of talking to yourself differently. You can do that. So what happens when you commit to this? Let's say for the next 3 days, you become the guardian of your own mind. You pay attention to the thoughts that come up. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, you stop and say, no, that's not helping. I can do hard things. When your brain says, I'm so far behind, you say, I'm making progress, one step at a time. When that familiar voice whispers, you're not enough, you say, I am learning. I am growing. I am worthy. And you don't just say it once, you repeat it over and over. Because repetition is how you rewire. And here's where the magic starts. Your energy begins to shift. You feel a little more in control, a little more hopeful. That shift in thought leads to a shift in behavior. Instead of procrastinating, you take action. Instead of spiraling, you take a breath. Instead of hiding, you speak up. It might feel small at first, but those tiny shifts, they stack. One small win leads to another. You start building proof that you can think differently, show up differently, and be different. This doesn't require perfection. You're not going to silence all your negative thoughts in 3 days. That's not the goal. The goal is awareness. The goal is to interrupt the cycle. Most of your thoughts aren't even conscious, they're habits. But the moment you become aware of a limiting belief, you gain power over it. And that awareness creates space for choice. You can choose a different thought, a better one, a more empowering one. And when you do that over and over, even just for a few days, your brain starts to adapt. It says, oh, this is how we think now. Okay, it starts building new neural connections to support this new way of being. Let's be real. Keep going. even when you're scared. It means being kind to yourself, not because life is easy, but because you deserve support from the inside out. And no, you won't get it perfect every day. Some mornings will still be hard. Some moments will still bring up doubt. That's okay. This isn't about perfection, it's about pattern. It's about building a new default setting in your mind, one that's grounded in self-respect, in resilience, in belief. You catch yourself when the old voice starts to spiral. You pause. You replace it with something stronger, something true, something helpful. That's the work. That's the rewiring process. The truth is, your words are like seeds. Every time you speak to yourself, you're planting something. So the question is, what kind of garden are you growing? One full of shame and fear, or one built on growth, courage, and grace? It's a choice. And you don't have to wait until everything in your life is perfect to make it. You start now. You start today. You start in the middle of the chaos, the doubt, the uncertainty. Because that's where real change begins, not when it's easy, but when it's needed most. So decide. For the next 3 days, commit to being on your side. Talk to yourself like someone who matters. Someone with value, someone in process, not someone broken. You don't have to believe every word yet. You just have to say them. Let the repetition build the belief. Let the new thoughts guide the new actions. Because when you change your inner voice, you change your experience of the world. You stop waiting for life to validate you and you start validating yourself. That's the shift. That's the power.